The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Current and Joseph Christina as they serve up the hottest photography news and commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 193. I'm Joseph Christina here with my co-host Trevor Current. On last week's show, we talked about a Wacom Cintiq alternative, Canon hits a lens building milestone, free lynda.com training, and Nikon recalls their D750. If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at digitalphotographycafe.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/dphotocafe. Listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or subscribe through iTunes or RSS.
Hey, Joe, we are back.
Yes, we are here.
Yeah, some minor recording technical difficulties, but we're getting on with it, man.
Absolutely. It happens, and it always has to do with internet, right? Internet is always the culprit.
Yep.
I know you just came back from vacation, but internet wasn't your problem, right?
No, yeah. We went on our nice week plus vacation with the family down to the beautiful Jersey Shore, the southernmost point of New Jersey. It's called Cape May. It's gorgeous down there. And the hotel that I was at, we've stayed there multiple times. And last year when we went, the connection was kind of, whatever. It was okay. Yeah. This year they went all out, man. I was talking to the guy. They put in this Wi-Fi mesh network. They got it hooked up to some really fast broadband. It was like 50 megabits down, 10 megabits up. It was crazy. It was really, really good.
Wow.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, you can't beat that. Well, I mean, we kind of live and die on Wi-Fi or on internet, as it be. It's kind of like an addiction, but the addiction is we need it, right? It's kind of like a necessity. Being in it can't help it. You're doing your web stuff. I'm uploading gigabytes sometimes of data, photos and RAWs and all kinds. I mean, without a good connection, you're pretty much out of luck.
It's painful. Yeah, it's painful. It's almost unusable. I mean, you really get to the point where it paralyzes your workflow. And that was the first thing I did when I got to the hotel. I had, something minor I needed to take care of for a client. And the first thing I did when I connected to their Wi-Fi was open up speedtest.net and run it. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome, So,
that's it.
We've been having problems here at the office too. And we've had tech support out here multiple times. And this last trip, they actually replaced all of the wiring from the pole to the house.
Right.
So we'll hopefully that will fix the problems that I've been having here.
Yeah. I understand.
And hopefully your problems get fixed too, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm having packet errors and all kinds of stuff, and it's DSL. And the problem with where I am, I don't have an alternative. So it's not like I can go with Comcast or another provider. I'm stuck with AT&T and what they, you get what you get. You don't get upset kind of thing. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's kind of annoying, but it kind of is what it is. We can't really do anything about it,
Yeah.
So, but anyways, kind of move straight into the show. I know last week we talked about a story about a photographer that I think his camera was returned to him or whatnot, just because he had XF data on the image that was on a memory card in his camera. So I was talking about it, and I was telling how important it is to kind of have your camera automatically bake into your XF data the author's name as well as copyright information. Most modern cameras do that, right, Trev? So it is very, very important, because if you do it, there is a possibility out there that, listen, ownership is definitely yours. There's no way to say, oh, you didn't take the picture, because it's there in the raw file itself. It wasn't like put in later in, let's say, Lightroom. Number one. Number two, if a memory card is laying around, someone can take a picture, look at the XF data, and see who owns that card, and if they were nice enough, return it to you. And the same thing goes for a camera. So it's definitely useful. I know I was saying, listen, I'm going to put together a little quick video for you guys so that you can kind of see how to do it. Because a lot of, even pros, we forget that we can do it. Amateurs, half the time, they don't even know that they can do it. But the pros, they forget about it, or they do it when they first get the camera, right, Trev? And then later on,
Right.
A battery's out of the camera for, let's say, a week or something, and all of a sudden that data is missing and it's no longer writing.
Yeah, the body
information.
just kind of resets itself back to factory. Yeah, and most people probably just do the EXIF data in Lightroom.
Right.
They do it after the fact. They don't do it in camera, and they just figure, I'll put in all of the keywording and all the other stuff in later in Lightroom. I'll set Lightroom up to do it automatically. So
Right.
yeah, I like this. You put together this great video. It's a short video on how to do it. You're using your Canon as a demo, but
Right.
again, this can be done with most camera bodies, either through the menuing system in the back of the camera, or you may need to tether it and do it through software. But it looks really good, and this is something that I'm going to look at doing myself, because I'm one of those people. I mean, honestly, I never really thought about it until we did that story. And, I learned about, this guy's EXIF data, and it's because he did it in camera. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, like everybody else, thinks about just doing it in post.
Right.
So this is something that I need to check out, too. So, yeah,
Yeah.
really good video. We'll have a link to it in the show notes, so you can go check it out, and definitely add that into your camera for sure.
Right.
So while I have been away at play, you've been busy working. Not only did you do the EXIF video, you also launched another one of your products, this 3-in-1 photo reference tool. So congratulations on that. I see it's up on your website and up on Amazon now. That's
Right.
cool.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I'm like the inventor. I'm always trying to make tools for photographers to kind of make their life less miserable, as I always say, things that make it easier, quicker, save you time, save you money, this type of thing. And I've always used some type of card or something to be able to grab white balance. And I've told you guys in the past that, listen, you really need to balance the color temperature of your light when you're out there in the field, and not necessarily try to do it in post. Because many times, if you are really on the outskirts, all the way down to, let's say, 2,000, now you want to bring it all the way up to, let's say, 6,500 or something, that huge gamut, what happens is you lose color data. It's just simply not there. You really want to kind of dial it in close when you're out there in the field. It would be ideal to dial it in perfectly. That's what I do. And then I know that I have that... I can go from, let's say 4,500. I can go all the way down to 2,200 Kelvin, or go all the way up to 65 or higher, and be able to have that way of artistically changing the look of the image. So, anyways, I made this card, and it almost looks like a Macbeth card. It's kind of like a when I call it a 3-in-1. In fact, I have one here with me. You can see that right here. What I did is I made it so that you have a lockup of an 18% gray, so you can in camera use this as a target and set your white balance. So wherever you are, you can use this. Set your white balance. Set it to custom, and now everything in that light at that specific time, another 500 pictures that you're taking, let's say it's all going to be perfect balance, let's say. Or you could use that same spot for later on dialing in your color temperature just by using your little eyedropper and clicking on it. So I did that, as well as put on here an exposure meter. So a lot of the video guys out there, they want to get their exposure right. So this little area right here is going to get that, get your exposure exactly how it needs to be. You know where your black is, and you also know where your white is. If this area right in here ends up being white, you're overexposed, and so on and so forth. So what will happen is you can really dial in your exposure, and your exposure ends up being perfect. You get those deep blacks and those rich, great blacks, but then also your highlights aren't getting blown out and you're losing data. So that really works out great. Also put in the RGB as well as CMYK on here, as well as skin tone as a reference, which works out good. But one of the things that no other card has that I really wanted is, most of the time I'm in post-production and I'm sitting there changing, because I'm changing color to try to artistically change a color to make it look at how I want it to look. It doesn't have to be specifically neutral. I actually don't like images that are dead on neutral, but it's really good to get there from the very beginning, and then you can kind of move from there. So I created this back side of the card, and this is specifically for after the fact. In post-production, you have 12 custom tiles that I developed on here that you can go then in post-production and click on the 12 tiles. It's a nice little gradient, let's say, and warm up the temperature of an image and then cool it all the way back down. So you have the full gamut to really dial in your image and not have to sit there and play with sliders and stuff. The story is here you have the color temperature that's around at the time of capture. So then when you're clicking, you're actually getting exactly what you're getting, and you're kind of getting that nice either warming or cooling that happens after the fact. So that's kind of the skinny of it. 37 anti-reflective color reference tiles is basically on this entire unit. So I made it basically for myself, just like all the tools that I make. And then if it comes out and it works and I use it all the time and I feel that it's a positive, it really works well, then I'll offer it to you guys and to other fellow photographers worldwide. And that's what I did with this one.
Yeah, that's very cool, and I like the size of it. It's small, it's compact. It's only like 5 inches by 7 inches, so it's small enough to fit in your bag. It's not small enough to put on the shelf in your studio. It's not like some big thing. Right. It's not in a thick case either. It's relatively thin, so you don't have to worry about squeezing this case into a small place either. So yeah, I like it a lot, and I know you put together a video about it. So we're gonna go ahead and play that real quick for you guys, so you can learn a little bit more.
The 3-in-1 Photo Reference Tool is a versatile, all-in-one color reference accessory designed to help you dial in white balance, exposure, and color temperature. With its 37 anti-reflective color reference tiles, both photographer and videographer can take complete control over their color workflow. The front side features 19 color tiles. The large 18% gray card with center target makes autofocus lockup easy while providing fast in-camera custom white balance and single-click color correction in post-production. The 6-step exposure gradient provides perfect tonal reproduction, balancing highlights with deep, rich blacks in every image. Its 12 tiles of primary, processed, and standard skin tone colors are perfect for digital reference. On the backside of the 3-in-1 Photo Reference Tool, you will find 18 custom tiles. 6-step exposure gradient including an 18% gray tile, perfect for dialing in exposure and neutralizing color temperature in post-production. And finally, perfect for the portrait photographer, a unique 12-step gradient unlike any other color reference tool, allowing warming, cooling, and neutralizing color with a single click. From in-camera to post-production, the 3-in-1 Photo Reference Tool helps push your creativity to the next level, providing complete color control over all your imaging creation. Grab one today from your local camera dealer or visit our website at jchristina.com.
Oh, so Joe, this looks really cool. Best of luck to you. I definitely encourage our viewers and listeners to head over to jchristina.com. Check it out. There's more information there. You could pick it up on Amazon if you so choose. And but if you go over to jchristina.com, Joe has offered a discount code. If you use PRT20, you'll get 20% off at checkout, which is an awesome deal. So head over there and give it a look.
Excellent, excellent. So kind of moving on, we asked, I think it was a couple of weeks back, that we wanted to start doing some photo reviews and kind of give you guys a way to show your work. Let us kind of critique it or at least look at it and speak about it, but also give you guys the notoriety and send people over to your website and give you some publicity. So someone sent in a really good image. I think this was last week or the week before. There's a lot of you guys sending in images, so we're kind of backlogged a little bit. But don't worry, we're gonna try to get to everybody.
Right. Yeah, Robert Klein from Louisville sent in an image, and his website is robertkleinImages.com, so you can check him out over there. He sent in several images, but we picked two of them to kind of talk about, and we're going to have them up on screen here. They're really nice. I mean, again, Joe and I are both kind of drawn to black and white photography. Not that we only critique or we only like black and white photography, but they're usually more dramatic. They really kind of speak a little bit more. They tell more of a message. They evoke emotion. And that's why I really like them. And so this first image, he had it labeled Arizona. And I have no idea what it is, but it just is really neat looking. It looks like there's stones embedded in like a concrete thing and like a walkway. It's very intriguing because you just keep looking at it, wondering what it is. And as a fine art piece, I mean, this is a conversation piece. I mean, this is something that if you had in your house, you had it hanging on your wall. When you have guests over, the first thing they're going to say is, what is that? That's really cool, And, when you speak to Robert and you understand what this is and he tells a story to you behind it, that creates a great conversation piece. So things don't have to be so literal. I like more of these abstract things, the things that raise questions, create conversation.
Yeah, I think I do like black and white. I know you were just speaking on it, but for me, black and whites are kind of like the, let's say, the skeletal structure of a photo. If a photo can hang in there as black and white, putting color just can possibly make it better. But if you turn something black and white and you look at it and just doesn't make sense, or it's not put together well, it's very apparent because you can see the positive and negative shades. You can see how lines interact and how there's how everything is put together. And when you look at this, it has a really great line to it. I like the positive, I like the negative shapes, I like the angle that it was shot at. I like the lines, and it almost looks like stucco or stones inside walls or some kind of. It's really an odd. It is very, very odd. I really like it. For me, I think it'd be a great piece to hang over a couch. For what I would do slightly different is I would just crop it slightly, a little bit different than how it is now. I would take the tree that's over on the right hand side out of the image completely, and that little. Let's say the point of maybe it's a roof, or I'm not sure exactly what it is. I would kind of remove that and I would cut it right before where that edge is. That's what I would do with it. And this way, that's a little bit that distraction over there that's kind of just sticking out kind of oddly on the right-hand side. I remove that and make it really, those lines are really strong and powerful. I like this picture a lot. I really do. He also sent in an image, another black and white, and we're going to bring that up, and you can see it's almost like an older person's hand. Let's say you can see the clarity and the how sharp the hairs are on the knuckles of the hand. I mean, it's really a real nice tack sharp image. I really like that, and it's literally someone feeding birds out of their hand, probably feed or whatnot.
Yes,
it's really
the whole
nice.
Bird in the hand thing.
Yeah, I like it. It's almost, to me, it has almost like a yin and yang feel to it. On one side, you have that like grays. On the other side, you have the whites. For this one, the only thing that I would say I would probably change slightly is to kind of line up that center line so it's you have that 90 degree, that vertical line. So it's not slightly
so it's
off.
True vertical. Yeah,
it's true vertical, and that's really about it. I wouldn't do anything else. It's the whole. Crop on it is nice. The color, the depth on the blacks is nice. The whites are really nice where they're not really blown. You're still seeing some textures in the white. I really like it.
Right. Yeah, and the detail on the birds, really great, nice and sharp. You can even see into the one's eye that's kind of looking sideways. So, yeah, really good. Great job, Robert. We both really like these images. And thank you for sending them in. For us to take a look at and share your work. And, again, go check out Robert Klein images.com to see more of his work.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, don't forget, keep sending those images in. Keep sending them in. We want to see what you have to offer. So, anyways, moving on. This was an interesting story. It talked about the story talked about let's call it cutting edge technology, camera technology back in 1995, right, Trev? You figured $20,000 for a 1.3 megapixel digital camera.
I know, it's crazy. We're gonna run this video kind of in the background while we're talking, but it's funny. I mean, nostalgia, right? I mean, you have your old Canon there that sits there. I remember back in the agency day, in the mid '90s, around this time frame, using the Apple Quick Take camera. That was our first digital camera. That thing was awful, but it was. Horrible. It was horrible, but it was a step in the right direction. I mean, Apple was one of the front leaders in this digital technology geared more at the consumer level, definitely not the $20,000 level, more like the $800 level. But it's funny. I mean, you just looking at it, 1995. I mean, how long ago that was, and how far we've come since then.
Yeah, $20,000.
We'll have a link to this video. It's a CNET video that was done back then, and it's really good. It's fun, just kind of a walk down memory lane,
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, in the video they call it cyber shooters. So that's what. If you shoot digital back then, at 95, you're considered a cyber shooter. So it was. I don't know the names, right, and the hairdos and stuff. I mean, I love it. I think it's great. Listen, guys, this thing was amazing. It shot on PCMCIA cards, 131 megabyte card that would hold 70 images. Wow, absolutely crazy, right? And
I know.
It was a Fujix Nikon, I think it is, like a hybrid, is what the camera was that they showed, which is it's just amazing. Figure $20,000, 1.3 megapixels. I tell you what, take a look at this one, guys. So this was the first, let's say for me, of my professional cameras at the time. This is what happened in 6 years. So from 1995 to 2001, when this was the advent of this is the Canon EOS 1D, the very first one. You can see it's got some wear. You see the back end. It's kind of, let's see, can you see that? Yeah, it's got a huge crack on the back of the on the back of the huge monitor, the huge LCD on the back, which is probably 1 inch, right? But look, this camera here was like $8,000, and it literally took 4.2 megapixel images, $8,000, 4.2 megapixel images, 2001. So look, you're looking at only a couple of megapixels more in 6 years, but the price went down from $20K down to 8, let's say. So it's just amazing where we've come. And now look what we have. We have literally, this is 4 megapixels, this camera for $8,000. Now we have, camera phones that are shooting, 3 times, 4 times that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's really cool. You gotta love technology. You gotta, love hate. I mean, today was the perfect example of that for us, but. So now Sony, kind of talking sensors and megapixels and stuff, a patent was uncovered of Sony working on a new type of sensor technology, a dual layer sensor,
right,
where from what the description is, the top layer of pixels are more of your standard RGB,
right,
and then there's a second layer of pixels that are more of that monochromatic. So the idea behind it is that the second layer will be used for phase detection, for continuous autofocus,
right,
which is kind of interesting. This is what the patent is kind of saying. I mean, what the final result is with the sensor is yet to be seen. I mean, when they file a patent, they have to file it with some type of idea of concept.
Right.
But this concept very well may be used in different ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're talking about, being able to pick a single pixel for focus on an image,
right,
which is just, kind of unbelievable. And the whole idea being tracking things, autofocus tracking, and being able to do it with this dual layer and having the camera tracking basically in black and white. tracking for that
Right.
contrast of that black and white is, I mean, it's just a smart thing. It's a smart idea. I'm surprised no one's done it before. It's a really smart idea. But like you're saying, the purpose doesn't have to be specific to that purpose. This could definitely go into a multi-purpose. They could end up something like almost like a foveon sensor, let's say, where they're
Right.
capturing the RGB on one sensor and the black and white, all that, the tonality of the monochromatic on another sensor, then combining them later. And then, now all of a sudden they say, hey, our 16, megapixel is now 32 megapixel or whatever. You know how this happens.
Right,
So who
right.
knows what they're like we said, who knows what will be the final outcome or the purpose on this, but definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they very well could even use that second layer of monochrome pixels to be more like that Leica monochrome camera,
Right.
where you have the ability to shoot full color or like a true monochrome,
Right.
More like a dedicated type of sensor, at that
Exactly.
point, a dedicated type of camera that can be dual purpose. So, yeah, it's interesting. Again, interesting where technology is going with the sensors for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Taylor Swift's in the news, right?
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she's in the news, and not really for a good reason, but it has to do with photography and photographers and contractual issues. We know in the past she's been very adamant about no one taking photos of her at her concerts. No, they would confiscate cameras, and it was just like a whole big to-do. This article is a little bit more interesting, right?
Yeah. She kind of, early on when Apple Music was first coming out, Apple's policy was, since it's that subscription service, that during the free trial, an artist would not receive royalties for the music that was being streamed.
Right.
After the trial period was over, then obviously any music that was streamed during their paid time period the artist would receive royalties.
Right.
Well, she was very outspoken about that. Taylor Swift is huge, as we know. My daughter loves her. That's all we hear on Disney radio all the time. And
Yes.
so anyway, she was very outspoken about it. So, Apple kind of took notice. I mean, she's a huge asset to Apple. And they kind of reversed their policy a little bit. So, I guess they started paying out the royalties during these free trial periods.
Right.
But there were several photographers who kind of spoke out about this whole thing, kind of saying, well, Taylor, you're being a little bit of a hypocrite now because you're saying that you want money for your art and the usage of your art, but then you're restricting us as music photographers who are there covering your concerts to promote in the press and in the magazines and everything else on how and where and what we can do with the images and some verbiage in the contract that they had basically would say that Taylor Swift and company can basically use their images for whatever they want whenever they want in perpetuity.
Right.
And
right,
the photographer really couldn't even use them on their own website or anything.
Yeah, which
So,
is just completely wrong. That's definitely hypocritical. I mean, I could see this just blowing up in her face, and but I mean, rightfully so. I mean, her speaking out on Apple's policy is, I mean, rightfully so. They should be getting paid for it.
Absolutely.
Now, there's so. I mean, but obviously it has to work. It's got to work in both directions, and
Yeah.
after the photographers did speak out on this, and some photographers, they boycotted covering a couple of her shows. I think it was in Canada, because they just they said, you know what, we're not going to cover it. We're not going to own the images. You're going to own them after we take them. I don't think so. And then we can't even use them on our website or in our portfolios. I
Right.
definitely don't think so. So we're just going to boycott. We're not going to show up, and that's it. You can take your own pictures of your iPhone with a selfie stick,
That's
stick
right.
if you want.
That's right.
Yeah, because
That's
we're not gonna do it. So she kind of said, oh well, wait a second, kind of backpedaled a little bit, and she did revise her contract.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a good idea. I guess her legal team worked with the National Press Photographers Association to kind of, come up with the wording and go down the right path with it this time. So now it makes it clear that the copyright is not transferred away from the photographer or the publication behind the photo, and that the images can be used on the photographer's website and in their portfolios. Whereas previously, they weren't allowed to do it, or they had to get special permission. It was a big problem. And the consequences in the past were, we're going to confiscate your equipment. We're going to confiscate your cards. I mean, all that stuff. They kind of backed off on all of that too. I mean, now they're at the point where they may ask you to delete images or something, but they're not going to like grab the gear out of
and the
your
key
hand
word there is ask. They're not going to be able to force. Yeah, they won't be able to force you to do it. It's just not possible. I mean, I can tell you for firsthand. We were at I think it was a Motley Crue concert about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they were just locked down. No cameras, no phones, you couldn't even point. You couldn't even point at the stage. I mean, they would have like the camera Gestapo like at the ends, at the ends of all the aisles. They would have a whole bunch of them, and they would literally confiscate cameras or phones, or tell you to put them away, or just yank you out of there. Now, recently, I think it was like a week or 2 or 3 ago, they came back. This is now 2 years down the road. They finally figured out the cat's out of the bag. There's no way to put the cat back into the bag, and now we're going to allow. So you were able then to. They still didn't want you to pull out big, DSLR cameras with big long lenses. But if you had a point and shoot, or you had your camera phone, any of the phones, you'd be able to point them at at them all you want and take video or photos, kind of at your heart desire. So it's interesting how things are changing, and they just need to change with the times. If not, they're just going to fall to the side. So
yeah, absolutely. So Trey Ratcliffe, he has been working on a Kickstarter campaign to basically build a travel photographer's dream of a bag. Yeah. Something that's designed that looks really nice and is designed really for that travel photographer, to be compact, to be able to carry it well. You can carry it to your side like a messenger bag. It can be kind of rolled around the back and locked in with another side tether to kind of hold it in place. And they were looking to raise like $100,000 with this Kickstarter, and they're actually up to like almost $1 million right now. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's really taken off, and I mean that's awesome. Good for him. We talk about Kickstarter campaigns and things that catch our eye. Trey is huge in the photography business. Everybody pretty much knows him for his Stuck in Customs website. And he just recently did a TED Talk, I guess, in New Zealand.
Right.
And I've yet to watch it, but we'll have a link in the show notes so you guys can take a look at it. But supposedly it's really kind of inspirational about where he came from, his background, and what inspires him to do what he does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Trey's a good guy. I mean, just to see those numbers, I mean, it just screams social media presence, right? Yep. Just to be able to, to be able to get from 100,000 is what your goal was, all the way up to 1 million with still 50 plus days left. I think it's like 56 days left. Really just screams social media. How else do you get those type of people to know that you're doing what you're doing? And then doing that TED Talk, TEDx over there in Queenstown in New Zealand, that I'm sure it helped a ton also to get that notoriety and get the publicity out there for that launch. Very smart guy, social savvy. I mean, he gets social. So, kudos, good job for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so moving on, Amazon. Well, I guess some photographers over there in, let's just say over there in Europe are not happy about this, but Amazon is opening up a huge multi-million-dollar photography studio in London. Can you imagine that?
Yep.
Amazon opening up a photo studio. Really strange, right? You think about it. But it's kind of not, considering Amazon is literally selling over $30 million per year on just fashion products. So having your own studio,
in Europe.
just in Europe alone, yeah. So having having your own fashion, let's say photography studio where you can take, they're estimating up to like 500,000 final images, for Amazon, and having a studio to do it. I think they're talking like 46,000 square foot studio with 22 bays. That is just amazing, right? But just think about it, Trev. It probably is going to cost them what, $3-4 million, let's say, who knows? And you're looking at 30 million in sales, and it's nothing. It's like a drop.
Yeah, no,
in the
that's not
bucket.
30 million in a year. That's the 30 million last quarter.
Right. That's right.
1 quarter of the year, they've done
So you're
$30 million in fashion products.
Yeah, so over 100 million in 1 year's time. It's just...
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it makes total financial sense from Amazon's part. They can hire some quality photographers, get them in there. They built the studio out with 22 individual photography studios, let's say, studio bays, let's say. It's got a large state-of-the-art editorial suite. It's got video editing on site, a creative fashion library. They've got office space for their employees here. So, I mean, this is really huge for Amazon UK and in Europe. This is really going to streamline their workflow. But like you said, there's going to be a lot of photographers that are going to be losing business because of this. I mean, many photographers work with fashion designers to create the imagery that will then be used on these different websites for e-commerce. And Amazon is huge with this, of course, and that is a big chunk of business that they may be losing now.
Yeah, it's just the idea of bringing stuff in-house, and they get it. They do it well. It's like localized delivery from Amazon. Well, they'll bring something, they'll courier it straight to your, to your house and circumvent postal service or circumvent DHL or whatever. I can see all these things happening, but I don't know, what are they talking about? Drones? Dropping off small light items, via drones to your workplace. Just crazy stuff. They understand money, and they understand how to bring it internal and just kind of get rid of those middlemen. So it's definitely interesting. It's kind of like the the idea of YouTube going and bringing people into a YouTube center for recording video. This type of thing. Yeah. Because they know that if they make better quality productions, people are going to watch. And if people are watching, they can, of course, sell ads against those, against those episodes. So it's just smart business, definitely smart business. Amazon, God, they're huge. They get it for sure. So
they own the world. So, you mentioned drones. So here's another player getting into the drone space. Yep. Only this is not someone who I would have expected to do it, but Sony is actually going to be getting into the drone market space next year.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
This is kind of interesting. Yeah. They've actually partnered with another company. It's called ZMP. Right. And they're forming like a new partnership called AeroSense. Right. And basically what they're doing is they're creating this drone technology for surveying and observing, inspecting, that type of stuff. Not really geared for consumer use at this point. I guess you could say probably more for government type work. But it's interesting because Sony's kind of bringing their camera sensor technology, their mobile communications, their, that end of the business. And this other company is bringing in their robotics kind of background. And that's how they're coming together to make these autonomous drones, which, is really kind of interesting. Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, like DJI, companies that are right now big in the drone environment in the drone space are really going to have to figure out what is their next thing, because once you start seeing
Sony doing it. I don't care if they're stating, oh, it's for this, that, or whatever. That's just writing on the wall means that they're going to have a little mini drone for every person in the world, within the next 5 years. So, don't get it twisted with government this and government that. It's just, that's just all, banter. But of course, that, GoPro also has gone into the drone market as of next year. So we'll have GoPro drones. We'll have Sony drones now with the new AeroSense company name, let's just say. So there'll be big players in that drone space. So the smaller guys, the ones that are kind of, cutting their teeth for the last year and a half, that they've been fighting with, government and all this stuff. These big companies like, yeah, you know what? You just go ahead, you fight, you go do whatever you're going to do. And then we're just going to come in and we're just going to sweep up the entire space because we have the dollars to do so. So, right. I kind of feel bad for the small companies that this happens to, but nevertheless, it's the nature of the beast. This is what happens, right?
Yeah, that's right. And if they didn't get into the drone space, they might be foolish. I mean, it's a hot market right now. And as FAA guidelines and rules change and evolve, there's going to be more opportunity for this as well. And Sony being a big company, they've got the dollars to do it. So I definitely see them getting in there big.
Yep, dollars makes more dollars, right?
Yeah,
that's just
that's
the way.
right.
That's the way it works. So.
All right, man. We got to get out of here. We are definitely running long on this week's show. So if people want to connect with you outside of DPC, how can they reach you?
Yep, they can find me on Twitter, and that's at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great, and you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Current.
So, all right, guys, we are done for yet another week. You can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/193. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/dphotocafe, or call our comment line at 440-345-6707. Once again, that's 440-345-6707, and we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Current and Joseph Christina. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with any compatible device by visiting youtube.com/dphotocafe. Be sure to subscribe to our audio feed through iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or through RSS. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your host.